Welcome to The Path. This podcast is a production of the men's ministry of First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Welcome back to the Path Podcast. I'm Jeff Tarkington. Again, Foster is not here with us. Our schedules just cannot match up lately, but I am so grateful for the guests that we have today. We have Clark Walker. I've been trying to get Clark on for quite a while now. He is one of the music ministers here, so if you go to the 9:45 service that's in Wilson Hall, you're going to see Clark, or the 11 o'clock service that's in the main sanctuary. He's leading the music there. The 11 o'clock service is the contemporary service. Same message as the others, but just a little bit different music. The 11 o'clock one is the one I attend, so I get to see Clark pretty much every Sunday up there in the middle leading the music, and it's great. I'm excited to have him here, so welcome to the show, Clark.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited.
I think I've been talking to you about this for almost a year now. I'm like, hey, I need to get you on the podcast, and finally we're able to get some stuff to line up and get him here. So like with everybody, we're going to start off. We'll let you tell us about, where you grew up, what life was like for you as a kid, and, this progressing on to where we're at now.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm loving what you guys are doing over here on this Path podcast. It's awesome. I try to listen to everybody that y'all have on, but
I appreciate that. Hey, if you give us a rating, and anybody listen, if you want to give us a rating,
five
stars.
Yes.
If it's not 5 stars, you don't have to worry about it. That boosts, and the reason I say it boosts the algorithm where more people are able to hear this. It pops up on different things for them, and this helps us reach more people to hear, about Jesus and the power that believing in Him can have on not just men, but anybody. Amen. Even though this is a men's ministry podcast, I know that not just men are listening.
Yeah. Well, a little bit about me. I grew up in West Tennessee, so Jackson, kind of in between here in Memphis. So I grew up in Jackson. I guess before Jackson, little town called Middleton, Tennessee, kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
I've heard. My parents live in Paris, so
okay.
I know the area a little bit.
I don't remember much of our time there. My father took a church whenever I was 3 in Jackson, so we left from there. My grandfather was pastoring a church there, kind of built a church in Middleton, and then my father and my mother, they went to Jackson and took a church of maybe 20 members, and half of them left within the first week. And so it was the Lord called them there, and been there for 21 years. So I grew up in church. My father was the pastor. My mother was the music director. She led the band, and I kind of got started from a young age, just singing, and soon after that jumped on the drums, and my brother was on the bass, and we just kind of had a great time. Just that's kind of what I grew up in from a church perspective. But I've got an older brother. He's 32. I've got a older sister. She's 27, and I'm 25. We're 19 months apart, so we're pretty close.
Are all of y'all into music?
Yeah, so except for my dad. My dad played trumpet in high school, but besides that, he doesn't sing or anything. So it's just he's the one that takes the videos. When we're all together as a family, he's the one holding the camera. So and I know we joke around.
For those coming to church here and everything and seeing you, they'll see you playing guitar, playing piano. What other instruments do you play?
I really enjoy playing drums, and
that's kind of hard to do at church because we put you in a little cage where nobody can see.
Yeah. So I actually really enjoy drums, and that's kind of the first instrument that I really started on. And I picked up piano at, probably 10 or 11. Just kind of started learning a few chords, and then grew into that, and then picked up guitar after that. So.
How did the instruments, how'd that come from? Was it easy? I mean, I know even if stuff kind of comes to you, you still have to practice to get better at it, but is that something that's always kind of come easy for you, or was it hard?
Man, a lot of time sitting at the piano, just, it starts with a love for the instrument and just a love of what it sounds like, and then you kind of just get to understand what what makes a song and then just flow, and it takes time, but I think it's wonderful, but it does take time, So for some people it comes natural. Like my wife, she's an incredible musician. She started playing violin whenever she was 5, and she grew into knowing and having perfect pitch. So like she can listen to a note and know exactly what it is. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me, So some people are just incredibly talented and it just comes natural. But to me, it just took some time. But when it comes to singing, it just kind of came natural to me at a young age. My mom tells me this. Before I could even speak, I was supposedly singing Barney on perfect pitch as a toddler. And so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, she's told me that countless times.
So we know as a kid growing up, you're involved in music. What other things were you involved in?
Man, I grew up hunting with my grandpa and my dad. I loved hunting. I still love hunting. Man, my dad used to race pro supercross, motocross on a dirt bike. So I've grown up riding dirt bikes a little bit with my dad, and we just went to Loretta's a couple weekends ago. But I enjoy that.
I bet you people in the church that see you up there leading music would never guess that
Probably
you would,
not. Yeah.
like to race motorcycle or dirt bikes.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and I'm getting back into it a little bit more, but mainly just trails, and some fun stuff like that. But
They probably wouldn't guess that you like to hunt either.
no, probably not.
If,
I loved bow hunting is something that I've gotten into more recently. In
we
the
put a
last 5
Justin
years or
Crane
so.
up here, like, oh yeah, that guy looks like a hunter.
I love Justin. Yeah.
Then we look, oh wait, you like to hunt also? Like, I mean, it's so funny like that. People want to put you in this category, oh well, he's a music guy. He probably doesn't like to hunt, but no,
No, man.
you like all kinds of.
I love
stuff
it
like
all. That's where I kind of get my reset is in the woods. That's just kind of where I love to go and just be with the Lord. And my grandpa tells me that's 90% of the hunt is just going out and being in the woods. And if you get something that just adds on top of it,
So everybody I've had on that hunts, I'll always ask them, do you have a favorite gun that you own?
Oh man, my grandpa, he gave me a .243 Winchester whenever I was 6. And I killed my first deer with it. I still have it till this day, and it shoots as straight as it ever has. So I've killed countless deer with that. I got to say that's my favorite because that's just what I'm used to, and so much more than just the round to me. It's what I got started on, and so
it's like what I found is most of the time, it's not the most expensive gun. It's the one with the most sentimental value.
Yeah.
That the guys are like, that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Like it might not have the best value of others that I own. Like even talking to Foster, and he has a pretty good gun collection. Some of them are kind of high dollar, but his favorite one is not that.
Yeah.
It was something that had the memories to it, like what you just said. I think that's great. I think, and one of these days you may have a child and be able to pass that down to them, and
totally. Yeah.
That would probably be their favorite.
Yeah, I hope so.
What were you involved in anything else? Were you involved in any sports or anything like that?
Yeah, I guess I followed in the steps of my dad. He got me in baseball at a young age. He also played baseball, and I loved it. I loved baseball. I played Little League, and I really I got to a point in my life to where I was not on a great team. I just really kind of got out of the rhythm of it, and I got out of the sport probably around 12 or 13, and then I tried to get back in at high school, and I just couldn't find my groove again.
Yeah.
Just like I used to be able to really hit really well, and then I just couldn't really find it again. So that was kind of disappointing. But I played baseball. I wanted to play basketball, and I just never got good enough at it to play on a team. But
yeah, growing up in Jackson, were you going to public school, private school?
I did. So I grew up in public school, and in middle school, that was kind of my first exposure to just everything in the world, and I didn't go to a good public school at that time. It was kind of rough, to be honest. Kind of got myself in some trouble. And so after that point, so I guess it was I'm trying to remember, 5th or 6th grade year. After that, my parents sent me to private school for 1 year. And after that was high school. So I went to public school after that. It was an academic high school, so it was different than the normal public high school. So
was it a magnet school?
It was it was a magnet school. And my brother, it was like 350 people there. It was a small school, but my brother got in, and then me and my sister were kind of grandfathered into that. You kind of have to get either drawed in or academic level.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a great school. But so public school, except for 1 year, and then.
What about clubs or anything like that? Were you involved in music in school? Did y'all have a music program at the magnet school?
We did. So it's kind of funny. My middle school experience, it kind of started in elementary school. Every year I would sing for Black History Month. And oddly enough, as the one white boy, I sang, I grew up singing gospel music, so I guess I had some soul in me, and I loved it. It was awesome. And then I went to middle school, and I was the only white boy in a black gospel choir.
You stood out a little bit.
Yes, I stood out a lot. And it's funny when I tell that story, and I loved that. That was great. Then high school, started getting into some choir competitions with the state, and I did all state, all national, all West is kind of like these different choir levels. And so I really enjoyed that. That was cool just to kind of get that choir experience. And I was the president of our choir my senior year in high school. And I didn't necessarily want that position, but everybody voted me into it. But it was cool. Yeah, it was Madison Academic High School, and they were really known for soccer and their choir. And we had a great band as well. So
Did what you learned in music there, did that help you to where you are now?
Totally. I was a senior in high school, and my choir teacher asked me one day, she said, "Clark, what do you plan on doing, for college?" And I loved math. I thought that I was maybe going into an engineering degree, and I was like, well, I'm going to go to state school and just go for engineering. And she was like, "Clark, you're crazy." I was like, "Why?" She's like, you need to go try out for a music scholarship at Union." And I'm like, okay. Well, my grades weren't great. I knew that I couldn't afford that unless I got a good scholarship. So she got me connected to Union. And I talked to the dean of the music department, and he came over. We talked. I tried out, and the Lord just time after time it was such a short period of time, but the Lord just made it apparent that that's where he wanted me to go and where he wanted me to be. And so I was able to get a full scholarship to Union, and that was a huge part of my story. Is that one question from my choir teacher.
Yeah, that's huge.
Clark, what are you planning on doing?
So at Union, you had originally planned on doing like engineering and stuff. What did you do? Did you still do that at Union, or did you change it to where you're studying music?
So I was going to do engineering just through state school and just do 2 years and then go finish at a private school.
Yeah.
But so I got a music scholarship straight in.
So you have to study music with a music scholarship? Okay.
Yeah. So I started off as a worship leader degree, and I did that for a year. And at that time, I was still serving in church every week. And they had just came out with a commercial music degree the next year. So I was like, man, that would be a cool experience to do some recording, experience, and just to learn a few different things about music behind the scenes. And so I actually changed my major to the commercial music degree. And it was just an interesting time because the school was, whenever you have a new degree, you have to do a ton of different things, new staff and all of that. So I enjoyed it, but it probably wasn't the greatest thing in terms of everything was super founded and there's a foundation to build upon. But now it's totally, established and it's great. So I think it's cool that I got that experience to kind of lead the way, being one of the first guys to graduate in a commercial music degree at Union. So it's kind of cool.
So I'll go back a little bit. So you're living in Jackson, and of course Union's in Jackson.
Yeah.
What is there a lot of people that live in Jackson that go to Union, or is it? I know they pull from all over, but what was that like? Did you have other friends from the Jackson community going to school with you, or was it like
I did?
all new?
Yeah, I had one of my best friends at the time. He went to Union, and so that was encouraging. But other than that, I mean, there was surprisingly there's a lot of people that go to Union that aren't from Jackson. So I met a ton of people that came from all around the world to go there, and so it was definitely a cool experience.
And also, you mentioned that you grew up. Your father was a pastor.
Yeah.
What was that like growing up in the church with your father being the pastor? And you said you moved there. The church had 20, and then the next week it has 10. So probably some trying times there also.
Yes, I didn't finish that story, so my apologies. So my parents moved to Jackson. I'm 3, and they start pastoring this church. They get voted in, and the craziest story. So the church was the previous pastor. There was an issue with money, and the church about went bankrupt, and they were in the hole big time. And the only way to go forward was for my father to take on the note of the church, which was
That's a big deal.
over $1 million.
Wow.
So with 10 people in a church with that note, my parents didn't receive a salary from the church for a very long time. So my dad had to do both bivocational ministry and start a business on the side, which was HVAC business, which he still has. So he started his HVAC business, trying to pastor a church because that's the only way for him to support our family from a financial perspective, and also just pay the bills of the church. So over the span of the first 5 years, there was a ton of building, and I didn't really understand it at the time as a kid, obviously. But I quickly started to put the pieces together once I got to that 10, 11, 12 age. And it started, there was so much tension, there was so much pressure that it got to my parents' relationship. And the question about my father as my pastor, I started dealing with certain things because I saw how my dad reacted to everything outside of church, And so as a kid, you can probably put the standard for a pastor way higher than probably it should be.
Yeah.
And with him being my father and my pastor, there was times where I was like, man, that's kind of tough to maybe see a double standard or a double life, outside of church. But in all reality, it was just the challenges of life and trying to provide as a father, provide as a husband, provide as a pastor. And that weight was extreme. And I have so much more respect for my father now to see him carry through and see on the other side how the Lord has blessed him and restored our family and marriage and all of that. It's really incredible to see the Lord through those valleys and through. You don't know what the other end is going to look like. You don't know if the note's going to be met at the end of the month. But the Lord just provided time after time.
Yeah. Now at 25, being able to have the retrospect and look back, and your dad being pulled 100 different directions, trying to be the pastor, trying to be a dad, trying to be a husband, trying to run a business.
Man,
I think a lot of people take for granted, there's a lot of churches like that where the pastor isn't a full, Yeah, he's still a full-time pastor, but he has a full-time job also that's providing for the family because the church can't provide. And I think we take that for granted. How important was it for you, or now seeing that and how he was able to balance everything, or struggled balancing everything and finding?
It makes me feel very grateful for where I am. And seeing things now, how life, the pressure of a bill at the end of the month, a mortgage for your own home, but the feeling of the weight of a church, that next level on top of it all, it's just, I can't even hardly fathom that weight. And so it definitely has built my inner thankfulness, about where I'm at in my life. And we can always wish things were maybe better, but I look upon that and I'm like, man, if my dad can get through that, and surely I can do what the Lord's called me to do right now in my life and provide and struggle, go through the struggles that maybe I'm in personally, or, maybe an issue with the wife, or just something crazy that may come up. You're like, man, I've seen time after time how the Lord has provided for my parents and for my father getting through what he has. And so it's definitely built me up, seeing that firsthand.
Is there anything you look at now, being a husband and the way your mother and father were, that kind of set an example for you and how you want to be as a husband?
Yeah, totally. I guess there's both sides to that. Some things that I'm like, try not to. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would definitely.
You can go wherever you want with that.
Yeah. So I think everybody takes away how their parents, in their relationship to one another. And there's definitely been some things that Rebecca's my wife, that her and I have set for our family, and certain things, certain lines that we don't want to cross when it comes to arguments or arguing in front of, we're like, whenever we have kids, we try to, deal with things in private,
Right.
and
because arguments are going to happen.
Because I remember as a kid seeing that dysfunction or seeing the division with my parents and like taking advantage of that, and just kind of getting in that and trying to get my own way. And so mentally, as a kid seeing that, I grew up just kind of fighting that. I'm like, I don't want that in my relationship. But on the other end of it, seeing the persistence of my parents through how hard the challenges were, I see that even though it was hard, even though it wasn't pretty, that there was, the Lord kept them, on the right path.
Yeah. Is your dad still a pastor?
He is. Yeah.
I think you said that. So
yeah.
My
dad.
Or?
Yeah, it is the same church, and he's still got his HVAC business. So
that's
he's the type of guy that loves to just kind of get out and do his own thing too, and not stay confined in an office space. And growing up, whenever I was young, I started cutting grass as a kid, and I grew up into a lawn care business as a kid. I really enjoyed the idea of having money at a young age, and so that was not a healthy thing, by the way.
Yeah,
because I saw how many problems I thought that money caused in my parents' relationship and through the church and whatnot, and I was like, man, I don't want to feel that pressure growing up in my family, in my life. And so I kind of idolized money for a while. And so I grew up and I was like, man, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to cut as many yards as I can and try to set myself up for success. And it wasn't until a few years ago where I was like, man, my mind's not in the right place. I need to get things straight. But some unhealthy things can motivate you to do things.
Yeah. Hey, if this music thing doesn't work out, Foster can hook you up with some lawn care. You can go back to cutting some grass. It's funny you say that about idolizing money. And I know on Sundays you don't get to go to a Connect group or are you leading the Connect group on?
I'm not leading a Connect group, but on Fridays I got a Path group that I'm with. So that's kind of my Connect group in a way. I try to slip into a Connect group on Sundays after Wilson Hall service and but it's just so weird because I have to jump out and jump back in. I feel like I'm a distraction sometimes. And so
the lesson this past Sunday was from Matthew, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was the man goes to Jesus, goes, I do all this, will this get me heaven? And he goes, no, you need to give up all your possessions. And he wouldn't do it. And basically it's kind of like you're talking, he's idolizing his possessions. And, we talk about money sometimes. The lack of money causes issues. A lot of issues causes arguments, trying to make the ends meet at the end of the month. But money, when you start idolizing it, and that kind of sounds like what you're talking about, you wanted money so bad and you almost started idolizing it, and it causes issues too. And I think that's important for people to realize that, hey, the lack of and the abundance of can both cause issues for you.
Yeah, totally.
So you're in college, you're going to Union. Before we started recording, you mentioned you had a girlfriend there, but y'all broke up, which was a good thing now, right? We could say that. It worked out for the better.
Some people that maybe not everybody's had this experience, but I got with somebody that I thought that I was going to be with for the rest of my life. And at that time, I was ready to settle down. And
how old are you? Like freshman, sophomore in college?
I was actually a sophomore.
So like 19, 20?
Yeah, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
and now in your ripe old age of 25, you look back like, what was I thinking?
Well, like our families knew each other. I'd always liked this certain girl, and it was just so interesting how all of that worked out. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but we broke up, and then I joined a fraternity in my junior year and surrounded myself with a group of guys that I felt like I needed, at the time, just to kind of grow into surrounding myself with guys with responsibility and just guys that push me into some leadership and just growing. And it did that. But I think the biggest thing that I learned from that was learning my boundaries and learning what am I going to stand up for? Because in those groups, fraternity groups, you can quickly be persuaded one way or the other. And just I quickly found that I need to stand up for what I believe in. And what is that? What do I believe in? So those questions were really healthy for me at that age. But the relationship question.
What was important? Well, we'll bounce back to that. We'll go off on some of it. I meant to ask you this: that you've grown up in church. When did you become a Christian? When were you young, teenager?
I was, yeah. So I was actually really young. It was on my 7th birthday, age of 7, and I remember I was in church. I felt the Lord just tugging my heart. Went down to the altar. The next thing I knew, I was in tears and gave my life to Christ. I was baptized a few days later, and
was your dad the one that baptized you?
He was, yeah.
So is that a special thing still?
Yeah, it's a really special thing. I'll cherish that.
I bet he does too, I would think.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't imagine, as a father getting to baptize your son and see him making that commitment.
So you make that decision at 7, and we'll jump back into college now. Did you ever have any doubts about your decision to follow Christ?
Doubt if it was like real at the time? Yeah. Real? Oh man, I definitely dealt with that. And it really wasn't until I I guess I was around 16 or 17, that I just struggle with a certain peace when I was juggling these ideas of doubt in my life, certain things that maybe I was struggling with. At a young age, I was exposed to certain things. I spoke about middle school and just that environment, and you go through that age of 10 to 16, and you're dealing with all of these things, and maybe that the evilness of the world you're starting to see and experience. And so I definitely had doubts of like, man, I'm struggling with certain things. And whenever I was about 17, the Lord just gave me a sense of peace that I couldn't understand, but He gave me a piece of my salvation, where I was in that certain time of my life. And ever since then, I've been completely just walking in confidence of who I am in Christ and He in me. And it's interesting because I grew up with loving revelation in the end times. And I know that's kind of weird, but as a kid, I heard my dad, he would preach about it, but I love the end times and just the certain things would have to happen in the world for these events to take place and the Lord coming back. And those thoughts used to scare me as a kid. Like especially doubting my salvation in a way. And whenever that's 16, 17 age, I just was like, man, the Lord gave me a sense of peace. And then now I'm just ready to be with the Lord whenever He calls us home, But that's just a little interesting fact about me. I love end time revelation. I love prophecy. I love all of that. It blows my mind. And to see, how the world has shaped over the last 10 years, you're like, as a kid, I was 14 or 15. I was like, man, how life then compared to life now? I'm like, how would these things take place? These systems, and then you see AI and you see certain things happen in the world, and you're like, man, we're here.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool to see that perspective of the world change in 10 years.
You're going through all that, and this makes me think when I was a kid, I remember not being able to find anybody like my parents, my brother, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I get left behind? Did that ever happen to you? Like, you're home, you can't find anyone, all of a sudden you're like, what happened? I got left.
That has totally happened to me. Or like, you start to call everybody and nobody's answering their phone. Man. Oh, man.
You mentioned you intended on, I guess you were going to go to junior college, get that, and then go to a school for engineering. But then you end up at Union. Yeah. And you're in the music program. And while you're there, you switch your majors. And now you're a minister. Mm-hmm. When you were 15, 16, 17 years old, did you think you would be a minister? Or do you think you'd be an engineer?
I didn't know at the time. But I was always told by people around me that the Lord's got a calling for your life. You hear that, but you don't really, maybe you don't feel it in the moment. And to see my life and to see the doors that the Lord has opened, that's just kind of my life is like, I've just prayed for the Lord's will to be done in my life. And I can see that none of this happened because of me or trying to pursue something. And the Lord really has opened up these doors for me. And as a teenager, I tried out for American Idol. I tried out for The Voice. They flew me out to California, and I almost got on The Voice. I was like, man, the Lord is calling me to do this thing, on a different type of level. That was my freshman year of college. I remember getting the phone call in the middle of class. It demolished me. I thought like my dreams were shattered. And it's interesting how the Lord brings you up and then breaks you down, and he's building you through this process to see where he's called me to. So I graduated college, and that was an interesting season. So I cut grass, for from out the age of 10 to 22. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to surrender cutting grass for this next year after I graduate college, because I know, Lord, that this is not what you're calling me to. I know there's much more. And so I spent that summer yearning and praying and in the Word every day, and just really seeking the Lord's will for my life. And it's a really interesting story how the Lord brought me here. So this was in the process of me like praying through. I was dating Rebecca at the time, so like praying through, is this the woman that you want me to be with for the rest of my life? And so that was the summer of 23. So I graduated from college. I'm really starting to pray that summer for the Lord's will over my life. And then I get a call. So little backstory, at Union, my junior and senior year, also, I was a part of a vocal group, a cappella group. And we would travel to different churches and we'd sing and lead worship, but also we would have some special music, arrangements of songs that we would do. And so we met a worship pastor, a pretty well-known worship pastor, Clifton, and he was a arranger and composer. And we met him at a next gen workshop event here in Nashville. So we traveled over from Jackson. I got to know him. And a few months later, he called me, and we got to talking about a possible position in Georgia at the church he was at the time. And went down there, was interviewed, got back. I got a call for a different position on Friday. And I was like, Lord, is this really what you want me to do? This is a long way from home. Like, my parents are like, man, this is kind of crazy. And I was talking to Rebecca about like the possibility of moving and building a life there. And I told them that I would give them an answer within a week. So I started praying to the Lord. I was like, Lord, I don't want to say this, but I need to know, Lord, if this is the right thing. So I was praying and praying and praying. And so on Friday, the next week, I get a call. Well, my father-in-law now, Mark Willard, is best friends with Jason Breland. And on that Friday, Jason called Mark and asked about a position, possibly if he knew anybody that would maybe be interested in the position here at the church.
Wow! So
I was in the room whenever Jason called Mark.
So you had no idea even you knew where Hendersonville was, but
so yeah, and I didn't finish that story either. So the a cappella group, and it gets even crazier. We actually came here. So the weekend before finals, my senior year, the weekend before finals week, we usually never travel, but we got a call, or the leader of our group got a call, and he's like, hey, we got an opportunity to sing at a great church in Hendersonville. And I'm like, I never heard of First Baptist Hendersonville. I didn't know. I've been to the area a few times, and I've got a couple friends that live here and have done some music with them. But besides that, I didn't know of First Baptist Hendersonville. And so we came here on Saturday, did a next gen workshop with some of a lot of the kids that I know now I'm working with, like Micah Gibson and John Holder, and a few of the guys that were in that group on Saturday. And so the next Sunday we sang in Wilson Hall. And oddly enough, that day, it was, little did I know that the Lord would connect the dots later. But so Jason calls Mark. I'm with Mark at the time in the room at his house. And then a few minutes later, I get on the phone with Jason and we start talking. And immediately I knew that the Lord was opening up another door for me to walk through. And So I ended up not going to the church in Georgia. And yeah, I was fully committed at that point. I was like, Lord, all right, this is what you want me to do.
So you've put all these questions in my head now, so you get them now. So Rebecca, did you meet her in college, or were you cutting her grass and like, hey, look at that girl up there. Let me cut this grass 3 times a week here.
Man, great question. So the whole Mark Willard story is kind of crazy because I needed an internship at college. So it was my junior year. I needed an internship. And so I got a friend, Jaron Davis.
And that's Rebecca's dad, right? Mark Willard?
Mark Willard, yeah.
Okay.
It's Rebecca's dad. And so Jaron Davis he was actually here at our church a few months ago and helped and led worship with our group here. But he's great friends with Mark. And Jaron called me and he was like, hey, there's a guy. I want you to meet him. I've talked to Mark. He knows about you. I want y'all to get connected. He's awesome. And Mark had just moved from Georgia and his family to Jackson. And so, long story short, I get an internship at Mark's church, which is Inglewood Baptist Church. So interning there on a worship night, this girl walks in and she's playing violin. And I was sitting up in the choir loft. I was like, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. And so immediately I went up to her and I introduced myself to her. And I didn't even know this was Mark's daughter. But so she was at Sanford at the time. So she was at Sanford. She came up and worship night, met her. And I was like, man, she is special. Like there was something different about her. She's wonderful. She so pure-hearted and just my biggest fan, supporter, everything. So we met again, and that next summer we just got to know each other. And then we were long distance because she went to Sanford University. So that's 4.5 hours from where I was at the time, 4.5 hours from here. So that's Birmingham. So we were long distance for 2 years. We had dated for 2 years on our wedding day. So dated for 2 years, got married.
So was it love at first musical note?
Man, honestly, probably.
It sounds like it. You see her and like, that's her.
Yeah. It was everything just came together, at the right moment.
And lucky she didn't say, get away from me.
Yeah.
So my other question, you're in an a cappella group. Were y'all a hit in the Church of Christ?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So,
I have buddies that are Church of Christ, and I invite them like, okay, don't be scared. There's musical instruments in our church.
We've got drums going, man.
Yeah. Or did y'all just sit around and watch Pitch Perfect all the time?
No, it was... So it was... We did a little bit of everything. So we did a few, we did a few worship songs, and then we had a beatboxer, so he did everything, and we had our leader of the group had perfect pitch.
Were you the beatboxer?
I was not.
Oh
no.
man, I was going to ask you to do that Sunday.
No,
I want to see the look on Bruce Chester's face.
Oh yeah,
when you're up there start beatboxing.
That would be incredible. Yeah, I would have a conversation on Monday.
Save that for VBS.
Yeah.
So you're Rebecca's dad. He's a minister.
Yeah.
And what is he? A music minister?
Music minister. Yep.
Okay. So you start dating her for 2 years, and y'all are married.
Yep.
And I'm guessing you asked her dad for her hand in marriage.
Yes.
What was that conversation like?
So I did mine a little different. I wanted her mom to be in the room too. So I asked, out of respect for both her dad and her mom, I asked them, can I come over? I want to ask you guys a question. And so
They probably knew.
Yeah, they knew, and it was. I mean, I was nervous. I mean, very nervous, but it was great. They're some of the most incredible people that I know. They've been huge supporters of me, but I think the most impressive thing was Mark. Whenever I first started dating his daughter, well, even before I started dating, he set me down and just told me expectations and what it means to date his daughter, and then we took that a step further whenever I asked for her hand in marriage. And that on the front end, I just had so much respect for that because I really didn't have that much growing up, because I dated a few girls and it really wasn't that, that standard. I just wasn't used to it. And so to walk into that, knowing she's different, knowing that I could see myself with this person, and then for her father to be that way, I just immediately looked up to him, and he's a very big influence in my life.
I mean, it sounds like he's really made it intentional about investing in you.
Yes.
Which, you're with his daughter. Yeah. I mean, he wants her to be taken care of and be treated right. And it sounds like, this is the way the look on you when you're talking about him, that has meant a lot for you.
Yeah.
What is y'all's relationship like now? Is he somebody you talk to on a regular basis? I mean, they're pretty close to here, so
yeah, we talk quite often since we kind of have similar jobs, so our schedules are a lot alike, so we don't really get to talk a ton, but every week and a half, 2 weeks, we'll sit and we'll talk for a while, and just he'll ask me a lot of questions about just how's life going, how's marriage, how's the church, how can I be praying for you, and those questions go a long way.
Yeah, you and Rebecca, I guess, both grew up with parents that are ministers.
Mm-hmm.
How has that impacted y'all's marriage?
More than I know. Like, seeing the benefit of that, I probably don't understand it right now in my life, just at this stage of my life, but it makes things so much easier as just understanding ministry and the sacrifice, but also what it's worth, to be in it full and doing it together.
Y'all both had an idea, I would think, growing up with parents that are ministers, of what this is going to be.
And we both had a love for it. We had a love for what church is and the people. And it's funny because she's a little bit more firm than I am, opinionated, I guess. But she's definitely, we were meant to be, just how her personality, my personality, how we work together. And we really are a great team. She makes me so much better.
I think she does photography also, right?
She does, yeah.
So, not only does she play, I almost said fiddle, violin.
You can say fiddle.
Yeah, she plays violin,
like it,
she sings, and, she does photography. I was just, looking at some of y'all social media stuff today, and does a very good job. Y'all both are very artistic and inclined to do well at that kind of stuff, it seems like.
Well, she loves people, and that is, I asked her, like, what's it feel like, to capture those moments with people, and she does wedding photography, and I've second shot with her before, so I have a little bit of experience just because I want to help her, whenever she needs it, but she just changes into a different personality whenever she gets around people, and I love that about her. She's it's kind of odd too, but naturally I grew up more introverted and she's more extroverted, but now it seems like our roles have switched a little bit as we grow up.
What is that like? You say you grew up introverted, but you've been doing music in church for your whole life, really.
Yeah.
And then before we started recording, you talked about you're in a competition singing, and we can talk about that too, but you're in front of all these people and performing, singing, leading a worship service, but you're introverted.
Yeah.
Is that hard? Is that when, before you're going out there to lead? Is it like, okay, let me fight this fear I have right now?
And I definitely dealt with that quite a bit in my life. And, but I've had to just rely on the Lord, the strength of just praying for just peace and to give me strength through those situations. And I've been here 2.5 years, and I feel like I've gotten used to is not the right word, but more comfortable with the role where I am and where the Lord's placed me. And I've the first few months just adjusting to the church and the amount of people that I don't know. Like, I came out of college, maybe I didn't mention this, but the size of the church that I grew up in was very small,
Well, we talked about early on, it was like 20, then went to 10. And what's it like now?
Still, around 100, or so. But, it very small compared to what our church is, and it's what a blessing. But it is definitely two different things and two different types of pressure. And at the end of the day, I've talked with my team quite a bit about this, but whenever I try to encourage people that may be nervous or scared, I'm like, we're in this together as a team. Like, we're going to go out and we're going to lead, we're going to worship together. And your feelings that you're feeling, we're all feeling that to some degree. So let's just give it to the Lord. And whatever happens, we just lay it down at the foot of Jesus. And so that perspective has helped me, kind of grow into that leader, to kind of accept the things that I struggle with too. And honestly, it's taken a lot of preparation on the front end. I'm naturally, like Jason. One great thing about Jason Breland is he's a great speaker. Like, it just comes so natural to him. But it's taken me some time to kind of get that under my belt, just naturally speaking and having words to say and fill in the gaps, and not just words, but the right words, and it's just letting the Spirit of the Lord really work through you. And I'm getting more comfortable with that.
I was talking with somebody I work with today, and she doesn't like talking in front of groups, and we were talking about it, and I have to do it a lot, this in the role that I have at work now. And I told her, I go, sometimes I find it's easier to talk to a large group than it is a small one, because a large one, you kind of blur them all together. Mm-hmm. But that small one, you can really feel, everybody looking at you. And I don't know if you've seen that or not, because, you go into the 11 o'clock service. That's a large group of people in there. Yeah. Do you sometimes find the larger the group, it's a little bit easier than, that intimate 20-person group that's right there on top
Honestly,
of you? Or is it all the same?
Well, okay, so I lead our college worship on Monday nights, and that group is, 40 to 55 students. And that space, it took some time to get used to, but I almost feel more comfortable in that space just because you just kind of get to know people and you get to connect the dots with certain people. But at 11 or just on our services on Sundays, it does feel like the lights are really on you and everybody's looking at you. And if something goes wrong or it doesn't connect right, it just I personally feel the pressure of that.
And nobody knows when something goes wrong.
But I feel,
you do.
But I definitely do, and I feel like everybody's looking at me in that moment. And then I'm responsible for leading everybody through those moments too. So I'm probably I know I'm an overthinker. I've struggled probably with that growing up. But it is taking those challenges and things that I have struggled with in my life when it comes to just being a public speaker. I took a public speaking class in college, and that was that was interesting. That was fun, but that was also super helpful for me, even at that point. So it just takes time, for me to grow into this role and the amount of people. But it really is a blessing, and I don't want to ever take it for granted, the opportunity. And you never, ever know who's going to walk in, what's on their heart, what they're struggling with, and just making that environment and space free and not burdensome, but free in the Spirit of the Lord, and just letting His presence be known.
Yeah, before we started recording, we were talking about like spiritual warfare and that kind of stuff. And, what you told me about that was pretty impactful. And I've been sitting here thinking about that as we've been talking about this other stuff, because you're 12 years old and you're going to go perform at the Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky, which that's a big arena.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. You're in a singing competition that was like 12 to 30 something years old, and you're the only 12-year-old.
Yeah, a little backstory on that. You had to submit a video in the denomination that our church was in. We met every 2 years and gathered at some type of, convention center. And at that time, it was in Louisville, the Yum Center. And it was Friday night, and you had to submit a video months prior, and then they select 8 of those vocalists. And so the age was from 12 to 35, and I was 12 years old, and I submitted a video, and I got picked. And then it was like I started taking vocal lessons. I was like, it was a big deal, like, to me.
This again here in the age range of 12 to 35.
12 to 35. The next person was
because,
18.
I put it in the sports world. You're not going to do a 35 and under team.
Well,
you have a 35-year-old with a 12. That's just not even comparable.
Me as a 25-year-old looking back now, like, it's a whole, it's hard to believe, but I was 12. And at that time of my life, I was kind of just, the Lord was doing something, calling me into more, as a worship leader. And I'm excited that the Lord's bringing this conversation out, but it's pretty sensitive. I was 12, and the week before that, I just felt like the enemy was really trying to get in my mind and really scare me from that. And I really wanted that moment whenever I would get on stage to sing, to encourage other people, other kids that maybe feel like they have a calling on their life, to step forward in that calling. And so I was feeling this weight. And one night, the week prior to that competition, I was having a dream, and the dream went blank, and I heard a voice, a verbal voice of, I believe, was Satan. And he told me, I hate you like I hated David. And I woke up in a state of paralysis, completely frightened, overwhelmed, and just scared out of my mind. And, man, I couldn't hardly speak for the next day. 2 days after that, I told my parents. And obviously they prayed with me. They prayed over me. But to see and to hear that voice as clear as I did, and to see every week getting up, fighting that spiritual battle, now fighting that spiritual warfare against the enemy, it just adds so much more purpose, knowing that I'm fighting the fight of the faith and trying to walk in what the Lord's called me to do. And that's my biggest fear, is not walking in the will of the Lord. And so I try to pray that prayer almost every single day. Lord, what is your will for my life? Because that's what I want. If I'm not walking in your will, my purpose, I feel purposeless, and So I want to do what the Lord's called me to do. And in that moment, as a 12-year-old, hearing that, and that's not the only spiritual warfare that I've had, but that I'd never heard of that before. And knowing David and who he was at a young age, walking out on a battlefield, slaying Goliath. As a musician, I find so much peace, so much strength in relating to David and his life, and seeing how the Lord used him, but also some of the things that David struggled with, and that lesson of keeping your walk with the Lord strong. Yeah. And so I've, from a young age, seen that and seeing my life and David's life, and there's so that could go down a whole nother rabbit trail, but needless to say, that was a rude awakening in my life. And for whatever reason, the Lord allowed that to happen to me. The Lord allowed that voice to come for me to hear that. And I think it's just because he knew where I was going.
Did you still make it to the Yum Center?
I did. And I won.
At 12 years old?
And I got $1,000, and I bought my first gun.
That's
A
awesome.
6-inch 357 Magnum.
Yeah, and I hear that. And one of the things you said, and I had to scribble a little note here so I didn't mess it up, but you're talking about at 12 years old, you're wanting to do this so you could bring hope that you reach somebody else. Yeah. At 12 years old. Man, that's why you're being attacked. Because, how many 12-year-olds say they're in this competition or want to do it for themselves? Even though it's a church-affiliated thing. Yes. But they're wanting to get that glory for them. Yeah. And be like, look at me, how good I can sing. Mm-hmm. How well I'm doing up here. But at 12 years old, well, you still want to do well. It is a competition. You want to do well. But your intent was to reach others. And that's why the devil hates you. Yeah. Hated you like David. And, even with David, he was a musician, and wrote songs and, played instruments and stuff. And I find that kind of amazing when you say that, because I don't, even at my age now, there's times like, and I'll Foster or other people say, hey, that podcast is doing great. I go, hey, I appreciate it, but I have to fight my ego. Because I don't want to get an ego like, oh, yeah, this podcast is doing great. No, that's not why we're doing it. It's not about me sitting here talking to people. It's about them, and it's about reaching other men. And not just other men, like I said. I know there's women listening to this, but about reaching other people for Christ and hoping this is an avenue that they can hear you and the stuff that you went through and be like, man, this resonates with me. I want to hear more. Yeah. I need to follow Jesus. Yeah. So that's why we're doing this. And
that's right.
I think that's so huge as a 12-year-old to recognize that. And mature. Yeah. As immature as I can sit here and be, and to hear that, like I would not have been able to do that at 12 years old. I would have wanted to take all the glory for myself. I might do that at almost 48 years old. Sometimes I want to take the glory for myself instead of putting it where it needs to be. Being in music, what has been your biggest musical influence? And it doesn't have to, it can be any kind of music. I mean, I'm sure you don't just only sit around and listen to Forrest Frank all day. You're probably listening to some other kinds of music.
Yeah, the biggest influence for me is a dear friend of mine. His name's Jason Crabb. And as a kid, I looked up to him. And the Lord just kind of grew our relationship as I got older, and he's become like an older brother, a mentor in my life. But as a kid, I loved everything about him, and he lives actually here in Hendersonville. And
I think his kids went to Davison Academy, where my kids are at now.
Yeah, so his influence over my life speaks in so many ways. I can't say enough about him specifically and his family and what he's done for me. He kind of produced a record of mine whenever I was a senior in college, and I did a senior recital. In that senior recital, I released an EP, three songs, and he helped produce and write those songs with me. So we went to the studio, and he actually came to that day at college. He led a seminar and for the whole music department, and just to hear his story. And then he stayed and just supported me in my senior recital, and just has prayed over me. Has a big reason why, Jason talked to him, about me whenever I was being considered for this position. And I just as a kid, it's actually funny. You can go back, if you're a Jason Crabb fan, you can go back and find this song. It's a YouTube video. It's called Somebody Like Me. You can go on YouTube and look it up. And I was a 7-year-old kid, and my mom was sitting beside me, and it's a story of a drunkard man that walks in of a old chapel building. Congregation's in there, and they look over at this guy, and he appears drunk. He appears out of it. Little do they know that his family had been killed in a car accident, and he walks in, and everybody's looking at him. This is the video, and everybody's just giving a smear, like just looking at him in an ugly way. And he comes down and sits by me, and I'm probably 6 or 7 years old. And I turn to him and I smile, and my mom takes my arm and jerks me. In the video, it's kind of funny, but the whole song, Somebody Like Me, as a kid in that moment, thinking, oh, I'm in Jason Crabb's music video. I just felt huge in that moment. Just to hear that story, that specific song speak in my life, and just to be a part of the video is kind of cool. So if you're a fan and anyone sees a little Clark, you can go look it up on YouTube. It's called Somebody Like Me.
I will talk to Aaron and see if he can put the link to that video in our show notes so people can see little Clark getting jerked away.
It's really funny. It's really funny. If you know my mom too, it's just it's crazy.
Did you have any other music? Was there any secular musical influences that you had? Were you a hardcore gangster rap listener or anything?
Oh man, no, not really.
I mean, you were in Jackson, so I had to ask.
Yeah. I like country music. I don't. Not necessarily influenced by country artists, but whenever I'm home or I'm on,
when you're going out deer hunting, you're not listening.
Cody Johnson fan. I like Cody Johnson.
Yeah. He's a more like old school traditional pop country music.
I like. I've been to a Cody Johnson concert. Yeah, but besides that, Jason really is. I was just so mesmerized at the time as a kid. I wanted to be like him growing up. So he was really it for all it for me.
What do you think of now seeing how Christian music is going into mainstream and the impact that it's able to have on, people that it wasn't reaching, 5, 10, 20 years ago?
I think it's incredible to see how the Lord is using certain people in our culture today. Forrest Frank, other like Brandon Lake, guys that relate to people that have walked that rough, hard road, and in their songs being willing to talk about those things. And there's this from an outsider's perspective, thinking about just Christian and judge. Maybe they feel judgment or they feel all this pressure, but in their songs, there's a lot of acceptance, a lot of love, a lot of joy. but also it's fun music and it's cool. So
it's a lot of it's very catchy music.
Very catchy. So there is a purpose behind all that, but I think it's wonderful. I think it's cool. And also hear just how they talk about it. Those artists talk about it, and you can obviously tell that the Lord is using them in a big way.
Yeah, I think it's fun when you see these guys and these men and women, and they're having success, and then the people that want to come and attack them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we talk about that spiritual warfare and how they have to be able to withstand that, and they'll use people to try to knock them down to where they're not able to reach it, and being able to withstand that, it can be quite difficult. At 25 years old, you're the worship minister here. You're leading the praise. What do we call it? The praise and worship team? Would that be right?
Probably band led, band praise team services.
But, that's one of your responsibilities is to lead that group.
Yes.
At 25, and you have people in there that have, I think of Paul Martin.
Yeah.
Who has been in the music industry, phenomenal guitar player, has been a singer, and you're leading that group, and you have this guy over here that has more time in the music industry than you've been alive.
Yes.
What is that like?
It's very humbling, but it is incredible.
And Paul's great. He seems like the most humble guy. We had him on the show.
Yeah, and I listened to his podcast, and to hear his story is incredible. And for Paul, it's just his heart. His heart is in it. And there's so many talented people. Whenever I moved here and took this position, I quickly realized that, it's not about real talent level or there's nobody really trying to self-glorify themselves. It's really a bunch of talented people coming together for one purpose. And, obviously, you want to try to do things in a professional way. You want to communicate well, but I've really enjoyed hearing their story, guys like Paul's story, and letting them bring some wisdom to the table, letting them speak to the band, letting them encourage in a way, because guys like that are so wealthy in knowledge, and a lot of it is just getting out of the way and letting people that the Lord has placed kind of in your hands to manage, in a sense, letting the Lord use them in a way beyond just music. And I think it's really cool because there's so many other people that have those unique stories, and I don't ever want to get in the way of just trying to push through that. I want everybody to be in together, and I'm super grateful, and it's incredible to get to lead and do music each week with these very talented people, and it is a big responsibility that I try not to take lightly, and I try to ask them questions like, if how do you think things are going, Paul? You feel like, is there anything that we could do a little bit more proficient, or just asking questions and letting them pour into it too, because they are a part of the team. They've been, the Martins have been a part of that contemporary service, led that, ever since it started. So I don't just want to come in and push, my way. I want it to be obviously the Lord's way, and the Lord's called me to lead that, but I want us to lead together.
Was there any kind of intimidation when you first came on and you see these guys? And, we're right by Nashville, so you have all kinds of musically inclined people here that are very talented, that you were a little bit intimidated at first?
Yeah.
You wanted to prove yourself?
Yeah. You walk into the room the first time, in rehearsal, and everybody's like, who's this guy? 23, fresh out of college, what, what is he doing here? But the pressure was real, but it was hard for the first 6 months, just learning how to just get used to the church, number one, my living situation, but just building relationships with guys on the team. within the last year or so is really when I feel like I've started to really get comfortable with the team and push some things to make us better and strive us together in a more unified way. And but that pressure, man, it's totally intimidating walking in. But at the end of the day, it's church, and like growing up in ministry, feeling like I can walk into that place and relate to everybody. Like, well, this is why we're here. And even though it was hard, I'm thankful for that, because those challenging moments, everybody has those moments. I mean, I know for you in your life, maybe the first time you walked into as a police officer and walking into those situations. And,
right. Well, even this, like with the guys that you work with, and I've brought this up a few times on different shows, like you go in there and you just want to fit in so bad.
Yeah.
And it was a quote from a Navy SEAL who passed away, and his thing is, early on when I was young, I wanted to fit in so bad, but what I needed was to be led. And if we try so hard to fit in and we're not willing to be led, we're going to fail. Mm-hmm. And then I think about, you go in and you have guys, and I bring up Paul just because we've had him on. And, But then this recently recorded with Dwayne Allen from Oak Ridge Boys, and these guys are so willing, and you can be intimidated to go ask them a question because of their background, but once you ask them, they are so willing to help and give you advice and kind of help you find your way because they've already made the mistakes. But being open to go, hey, what do you think about it? What am I doing here? What do you have advice for me? And they're willing to give that advice.
I think that's so.
Or Jason
so
even also.
Yeah. Of course, Jason. Yeah,
you get to see him every day.
Yeah.
And I'm having somebody like that to go to. What kind of value has that been to you?
It's been incredible value, more than I probably even recognize. I am super thankful for who the Lord has placed around me, and gives me a lot of confidence just where I'm at. And if there's a situation that arises, I have people in my life that I can go to that have walked that road, who have dealt with those situations and have been seasoned in ministry. And so when you're walking into rooms that you never walked into before, or you're leading band members that you've never even met before, having those people in your corner to go to, on the front end especially, super, super meaningful, super helpful.
So this question I have, and you've kind of answered some of it, and I think I know some of the people you're going to say, is, has anyone been a mentor to you and the impact that's had? And have you mentored anybody and the impact that's having on you? So this asking, I'm like, oh, Jason Crabb, your father-in-law, Jason, your parents are all people that I would think, oh, those are probably people that he could say have been mentors to you. And now Paul also. But, what kind of impact has these people been able to have? And some of these things we sit here and think of, and you've probably heard in the other episodes you listen to, I'll say, not all mentor relationships are that, hey, I'm sitting down with this guy once a week and we're talking about things. It's like, we might not talk to each other for a couple months, but they have been a mentor to me. Mm-hmm. Do you have that kind of relationship with these different people?
Yes, and I feel like you said, it's not an every week conversation, but my relationship with those people that you mentioned really fluctuates in and out. And some conversations you want to have with certain people, maybe that you feel more comfortable, having those conversations with. But I'm in a path group, that we have here at the church. I started that a few months ago with a group of guys. That's 4 of us or 5 of us. And having that consistency every week just with a group of guys, that are, almost 20 years older than I am or 15 years older than I am, that have walked through. It goes way beyond just ministry. Just as a husband, another guy. His name is he was our marriage counselor. I'm losing his name.
Well,
Jim McBride is his name. He's an executive pastor down in Georgia at a church where Mark used to be. Those guys that speak into your life at certain seasons. The Kendrick brothers. So interesting story.
like the movies.
Yeah, the movies. Kendrick
Yeah.
brothers. Stephen Kendrick married Rebecca and I, and
Oh, wow.
he was a huge mentor in my life at that certain time because I was. He told me this, and then this is interesting, but it's really funny because we went down there to Georgia because Mark, Rebecca's family, they grew up with Stephen Kendrick. They went to the same church for 20 years. And so Mark Willard actually did some of the orchestration and music for like movies like Fireproof and Courageous and Facing the Giants and stuff, which is incredible. Just kind of how Mark got his name on the front side of his career. But we went down there whenever Rebecca and I were dating, I believe, the summer whenever I was trying to figure out where the Lord, this was after I graduated, we went down there and I stayed the night with them, with Mark's family, and all of them were there. And we stayed up till like 1 o'clock in the morning talking. And one of the things that he asked me, he was like, has anyone told you that you're a man? And I was like, you know what? I don't think anybody's told, like, my dad hasn't necessarily told me, like, you're a man. And he was like, knowing Stephen and all of his life and everything that he's done, he's like, you're a man. And God is calling you to walk in this season of being a man, fighting for what you believe in, fighting for your marriage. Maybe it's your relationship with your parents isn't great. Having those hard conversations with your parents. And he, over the span of whenever I first got this job, getting engaged, so the very first weekend that I was here, September 17th, or maybe it was the 24th, the first weekend that I started here was the weekend that Rebecca and I got engaged. And from that period until we got married, we would meet, once a month and we would talk. And just what he's spoken to my life at that time was probably the most meaningful in the last couple of years, just because there was a balance going on. I was trying to make decisions, kind of that leaving and cleaving part of my life, leaving my parents' household and creating my own family and making my own decisions and being kind of scared of having those hard conversations growing up, really accepting that challenge, that just grew me in so many different ways. So guys like Stephen Kendrick, Jim McBride, Mark, Jason, there's a musical side, and there's just the challenging yourself as a man stepping into that season. Guys like Stephen, totally.
Yeah, and I don't want to. A lot of our conversation has been focused on music because you are a music minister here, but I don't want to put you just in that corner of music.
Yeah.
Like your path group that you're part of, you brought up, that probably has nothing to do with music, really. And the guys that you're meeting with on that. What impact has that path group been able to have on you?
Man, it's something magical happens. It's the Holy Spirit, but something great happens whenever you get in a room full of guys that are just wanting to encourage one another and challenge each other in the Word. And it's kind of, at first it's a little intimidating because I don't have any kids. I'm in this new season of life, and all these guys are, in this different season. They're struggling with different things, but it's been really interesting, the dynamic for them to speak into my life, whether that's a question about marriage or just any monumental things in life that I can just talk to them about, and they all have experience in it, is huge. Or even it's really weird because they have a lot of respect for me as well, which is awesome to have, like that respect from a group of guys that you respect, and having that every week, challenging each other, getting the word. It's made such a difference for me, and it just gets me away, gets me away from work, gets me away from the house. We meet here at the church every Friday morning, and it's wonderful.
And that's your day off too.
Yep.
Yeah. We talked about the men mentoring you, and I asked you also about, are you able to mentor anybody? You mentioned stuff you're doing with the college age group.
Yeah.
And,
Man.
They're just a few years younger than you.
Yeah.
But what kind of impact does that have with you now, being able to give back to them?
It's one of the most rewarding things. Like, there's so much joy in that, to see how I can speak life into these guys that are going through the same struggles that I went through in college. And
you're still right there, where it's not like,
it's really interesting.
Me coming as, almost 50 years old.
Yeah,
like,
right.
30 years ago, this is what I was going through. Like, get out of here, Grandpa.
It is, and I haven't just lived this perfect life. I've dealt with things, I've dealt with challenges, but getting to share those stories with those guys who are going through it. Some of those guys are musical guys that I see that have leadership potential and like a calling of the Lord on their life to maybe lead worship or do things of that nature. And I've got multiple guys that I've prayed for these guys. Lord, show me people around me that you want me to pour into. And I just remember everybody that did that for me. And what a difference that made in my life. And so if I can, man, gets me emotional a little bit thinking about it. But if I can have that impact on people around, guys like that around me, how much stronger of a body of Christ, how much stronger a culture and community that we'll have if we can just strengthen the guys and encourage the guys around us, And all of that's the Lord, because it's not anything in my heart or in my power. But
yeah, I'll bring up one of the guys. I don't even know his name. I just see him. And we're in the 11 o'clock service, and he'll be up there sometimes. He's a young teenage guy playing keyboard.
Yeah.
And sometimes his mom's up there singing. And you probably know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What is that like, seeing a young guy like that being able to come up in front of a group like that, and the impact that you're able to have with him? Because, y'all are coming Wednesday night after service practicing and everything. Mm-hmm. Are you able to see stuff like a little bit of you and him, being young and going through this?
Yeah.
And you can say his name. I just don't know his name.
Micah.
Okay.
Micah Gibson. The Gibson family. They're wonderful.
They're a big family, too.
It's awesome because I saw him this morning. He just started at the gym working out, and just to see guys like that walking through that season of change, and to see him stepping into this call of leading worship and on an instrument. And he was one of the guys that was there on that Saturday whenever I was still in college. I was here at the church doing that next gen workshop, and I have a burden for our next gen. Yeah. So these kids that are in 4th and 5th grade, leading worship, starting from that young age to middle school to high school to college, they get sent out and then they come back. Guys like Will Shackelford. He grew up here in church. He played lead electric guitar. He went on the road. He traveled professionally. He came back, and now he's playing with our band again. Incredible. He played Sunday. Guys like that, you see, man, just the impact that it starts. You plant those seeds, and guys like Micah, you see how they're each week, each month, they're getting better and better, and they're also growing in their faith. So it's really encouraging to see just that growth, see the community of Christ, that discipleship taking process in front of your eyes. And it's incredible. And as a 25-year-old, like I still see that in my life too, but getting to see that guys that are, 18, 15, 16, 17, 18, really grown into that manhood as well and taking on the challenges, it's really cool. And I wish we had more of that in our community, culture.
You brought up being asked, hey, did you have basically like a rite of passage into manhood? And we don't really have that in our culture, where you have other cultures that do. The Jewish culture, they do. They have a bar mitzvah, and like, hey, you're now a man. And this other culture, and we don't.
No.
And we look, a lot of society puts that kind of passage like, hey, you're not a man until you lose your virginity. You're a man when you turn 21 and you go, a lot of guys are drinking before they're 21, but hey, you're 21, you're a man, you can go buy and drink beer now. Or you turn 18, you're a man now. But that's not what does it. What can we do to change that? What are your, how are you, you got these young guys here to let them know, hey, this is what it means to be a man.
It's a deep subject, man.
You're like, wow.
I don't know if I have the answer, but I do know that accepting the challenge, but also affirming the call. Guys that have walked that road, and like the process we're talking about, finding guys that you're discipling and you're pouring to, and telling them, at that age, this is, and teaching them how to walk in that masculinity, walk in that challenge, and affirming their manhood, essentially. And I think it just starts with us, and starts with men finding guys to pour into and sharpen each other, that act of discipleship. And that's why I love Path Group so much. Like, I think it's incredible. I love that in our men's ministry, how Foster and you have really taken that and ran with it. And just from a culture perspective, I'm not sure, from I think it's just small steps that turn.
For us as Christian men to be around other Christian men.
Yeah.
And that's what a Path Group is. It's like, you're being around these other guys, so you're able to just kind of go through life with them and share things like, hey, this is what I'm facing right now. Like, man, you never know. Like, hey, I've been there also. But I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna be right there for you. Or like, hey, man, I'm going through this. Is there any advice you can give me or anything? And you got these other guys. And I think it's great to have older guys and also younger guys that you can just pour into, and they can help you through those different stages of life. And that's the purpose of a Path Group. It doesn't have to be something super formal. Even it's like, hey,
no, not at all.
Let's just. And I think that's what's so hard is like for men, you hear this stuff like, hey, you need to lead your family in Christ, have a devotion and stuff. And I struggle with that all the time. But we put in our minds sometimes like, oh, I'm having to prepare a Sunday school lesson for a family devotion. It's not that. It could just be like, it could just be simply using the Bible app where it gives you a verse of the day and you're going over one verse. Like, right now it's you and your wife. You read that one verse. Hey, what do you think about that? And that could be your devotion.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this super involved. Let me sit here for 3 hours and plan out this Sunday school lesson we're going to go over at dinner.
I also think it's talking about your mistakes in life. And I've had a couple mistakes, and I want to share this one instance that really shaped my life. I graduated high school, start college, and I had a buddy of mine that started smoking marijuana. And he invited me to smoke it with him. And few months went by. Another guy, one of my friends, he was I went to school with him in high school, and he invited me over to his house to smoke a bong. And so I went over to his house, caught up, and I smoked it. And within 5 minutes, I started feeling something I'd never felt before. And my heart started racing. I started going through, I started seeing things. It obviously had to be laced with something because I had not experienced that before. And I, honest to God, thought I was going to die. My heart started racing. I started seeing this light. I actually saw flashes of my life before my eyes. And I was like, I'm about to sit here as a pastor's kid. I'm going to sit here dead, and I'm going to disappoint my parents so bad because I sit here doing this. What a shame for me. And I started seeing these. It was like so real. I thought, honestly, like you hear people talking about, near-death experiences and stuff, but I saw flashes of my life like on a TV screen. And I asked God to save my life that day. This is part of my story. And as I thought, as I was about to die, I asked the Lord, if you would save me, I'd never do this again. I'll never smoke again, ever. And ever since then, I never touched it. I genuinely feel like the Lord saved my life that night. And I struggled with a couple things because the next day I was supposed to go to college, my classes. I decided to stay at my grandparents' house. That traumatized me, as that age, I was traumatized from that. And so I stayed at my grandparents' house. We ate lunch. I took a nap on the couch. I wake up to my grandma screaming. My grandfather had went unresponsive. I went over there, pulled him out of the chair, started CPR. And my grandma's on the phone with the paramedic. She's talking me through giving CPR. After a minute or two, he takes this huge gulp of air, and then he starts vomiting this stuff out of his lungs. And kept doing that for 10 or so minutes, and paramedics show up. And long story short, we thought he was gone because he'd been without oxygen for so long. And he went and they put him in a cooling chamber. 2 weeks later, somehow miraculously, he starts getting response back in his brain. And for so long, I thought that was I thought that was God being disappointed in me, and that was my fault. And I didn't have anybody near to me that I could open up to at the time. And so I say all this to say, like, I struggled for 6 months. I couldn't sleep. But if I had somebody that I was in a path group every week with guys that have walked that walk, and I could tell them that, I feel like that moment in my life could have been a lot different. But the Lord obviously brought me out of that, and it's taught me a lot of lessons through that. But obviously now I'm like, well, if all of that caused me the next day to be with my grandpa to save his life, he ended up living 4 or 5 more years after that. Both my grandparents have passed on that side of the family, but I'm thankful that I was there, but I wouldn't have been there if the night before didn't happen. So right. You start seeing things from a different perspective, And so Clark here, I'm not a perfect guy. I've made my mistakes, but I genuinely am. I've learned what it means to truly walk with the Lord and how important it is to stay on that straight path. And I want to challenge any guys that are listening to this, that whatever you're dealing with, talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. As a minister, we're not perfect. We've walked through things before. So And I wish that we would talk more about it. And I feel like we can all learn from, those things in life that we go through, those traumatic experiences and whatnot. But I know that kind of went down a different avenue.
No, I think it's great. I think it's so important for you to share that because, we see you up there and we think, oh, this guy's had this perfect life. He's never done anything. He's never made a mistake. Obviously you have. And that's probably not the only mistake you've made in your life.
No, it's not.
But, and you say, hey, if you're going through something, go talk to somebody. Like I would say you're going to talk to somebody, you're not alone. You're not the only person that has gone through this. You're not the only person that have had the thoughts that you're having right now.
Yeah.
Especially, you're this college-age guy. You're not alone, and you might feel like you are. Somebody else has gone through this. Share with them. You have no idea the impact that they might be able to have on you and also what you might have on them.
Yeah.
By this opening up to them.
In the last month or so in our college group, there's been a few guys that have walked in that you can obviously tell have, walked a different road in life, been exposed to different things. And I'm like, I feel like I can walk up to these guys and share my testimony, my story, and we can challenge each other and walk in that. And I'm like, some of these guys I walked in, I'm like, man, Lord, what, the Lord puts people around you for different purposes, and just, you never know what somebody's going through. So like, I always want to start just by saying, man, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, and I know you have too. Let's talk about it and let's grow together. And so, man, having that attitude has really changed my life.
Yeah, I think, the path that led you to this church is kind of amazing. Like you mentioned, like you didn't grow up in a Southern Baptist church. You grew up in a Bible-believing church, but not a Southern Baptist church. And now you're here in what many would call, hey, this is a mega Southern Baptist church. And that's a big change for you. When you came here, was there any issue like, hey, you didn't grow up in a Southern Baptist church? Was there any conversations with that?
From my family's perspective, yes. It definitely was a challenge. But I see all the reasoning now, like the Lord has made it so clear.
Yeah.
All along what he was doing through that. And, for me, so Union was a Baptist school. So
right.
how the Baptist church operates and, theology and all of that, really getting just my foundation kind of in the Baptist world. And then obviously going to different Baptist churches and singing with my group and all of that. And then coming here, but not being raised in it, definitely took some adjustment. And from my family's perspective, I would say that it was hard, kind of walking a different path, different route. But all along, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that God was leading me here. And it has been the most healthy, beneficial thing that I've ever done in my life. And I can't be more thankful for it. And it's to see my family was here this weekend, and to see my brother and my parents and my sister all here, and them being so encouraged because our church is healthy. We got a wonderful pastor. He brings the word. Our worship is great and encouraging to them because, growing up in a smaller church, there's a lot. You see churches like this and you kind of get discouraged, but to them, they're sitting there getting fed. And so needless to say, it's been a challenge, but it's so much better now looking back, and I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like some people just want to like Baptist, and all of a sudden it's like they don't want to hear it. And this is why I'll tell people, I go, if you want to hear, everything you hear from here is going to be 100% Bible-based, biblically based.
Yes.
You come on Sunday morning, most likely you're going to hear something from the New Testament, and it is going to come straight from the Bible. Bruce Chesser is going to read word for word what that Bible says.
Yeah.
You come on Wednesday night, probably going to hear Old Testament if you're in the pastor Bible study. I don't know what book we're on now. I've been going to some of the other men's group classes, so I haven't been in the pastor Bible study. But he's going to read a chapter from, most of the time a full chapter from the Old Testament, word for word, and he's going to preach that, and teach that to you.
And I'm looking forward to this summer. He's about to start a series on angels, demons, heaven, hell, and that's going to be spiritual warfare. What we've been talking about, it's incredible.
Everything you get here is going to be 100% biblically based.
Yeah.
And, I think that's so important. And also the other thing I tell people about coming here, I go, hey, get in a connect group. Yes, this is a big church. You get in a connect group, it does not feel like you are in a big church. That is where that is where you make the connections with people. That is where you meet people. And that is where you're really building your foundation in Christ, is in those smaller groups. Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard on staff to be in on that just because you're busy. And, I talk to the other guys that are on staff here, and it's hard. Like Sundays are a long day for you. Wednesdays and Sundays are a very long day. But then you get to see the impact that you're having on others is through the music that you're doing. And, it's not the preaching that's leading to people. It's that music that's leading people to Christ also. And it's so important for you to keep doing what you're doing. And
that's encouraging. And that's what really keeps me going, is just doing the work for the kingdom.
And I'm not a music guy. I don't know if I can't clap and sing at the same time. If we start clapping, I'm like, I can't do that. I'll mess everybody else up. And my daughter, who is musical, she makes so much fun of me. So it's great.
Everybody, and I'll say this, everybody, and people have come to me and they're like, I can't sing or whatever. And everybody has their own purpose and calling.
Yeah.
It talks about everybody serving in the body of Christ, different parts, and hands and feet and mouth and ears and eyes and that's what makes up the body of Christ in the kingdom. And going back to my story, I want to share one of my favorite passages is.
I was going to ask you your favorite passage. I don't know. No, I'm glad you're doing that, because I don't know if you listened to the episode with Ben. I forgot to ask him. Like, he had his Bible open, and we get done, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask you. So I'm glad you're doing that right now.
Colossians, I love Colossians, but specifically Colossians 3. And I know we've talked a little bit about this, but I relate so much from living from the old life to the new life, and setting my mind on what is above, and knowing that everything that I've done in my life, those things have died. Those things are in the past. The Lord has covered those sins, and by His blood we are healed. And I relate to the first part of that passage, but I mean, there's so many things about references, music, and like what was pleasing to the Lord, psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, and many other things. But just dying to yourself, dying to sin, that story of living that new life of hope and eternity, and what, that's all of our testimony. And that's kind of my life verse, is just knowing that all things have passed away before, and I'm a new man because of Christ. And so I take a lot of things away from that. Talks about marriage. I've needed that recently. It'll be 2 years in May, so I'm well on my way. Husbands, love your wives, and don't be bitter towards them. That's verse 19. So, I was talking to my wife about this last week, and we were talking about this in my Path group, but the act of, Jesus dying for the church. And it says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church, that he gave himself for the church. And you see, whenever Jesus did his first miracle when he turned water into wine at 30, his mother, it's really interesting. His mother asked him to do this, and he said, "Woman, it's not my time yet." But you see Jesus in this, he's working through this biblical leaving and cleaving, like he cleaved to the church. And I just find that so interesting how Jesus demonstrated that, and how that relates to Scripture, and how we're supposed to love our wives like Jesus loved the church. And I just find that so mesmerizing. It's cool.
Is there part of Colossians 3 you want to read?
Yeah, I'll just start from the top. I won't read everything, but so if you have been raised with the Messiah, seek what is above, where the Messiah is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on what is above, not on what is on the earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with the Messiah in God. When the Messiah, who is your life, is revealed, then you will also be revealed with him in glory. Then it talks about putting to death what belongs to your worldly nature. And once you've walked in these things when you were living in them, but now you must also put away all these other things. And I love verse 12, and it goes into putting on love and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience. And I just think it's the perfect picture of what our lives are supposed to be, and what our testimonies are. I'm thankful for that, man. None of us deserve eternal life. None of us deserve that hope and peace, but it's because of what Christ did.
So you're in this leadership position at church. You have somebody, young man, young woman, come up to you and and they're probably going to be younger just because you're younger. You know what? I've graduated college. I got a job. I'm being successful. Why do I need Christ? What are you going to tell them?
None of it has any value in the kingdom of God. All the treasures that you may have on earth have no weight. And what you think is worth fighting for right now is nothing in the eyes of God. And so it's so sad to see how many people in the world are living this life of just doing whatever they want to, in this life of sin, and they're proud of it, and seeing people going to hell every day,
and people that we'd say are good people too.
And people that would say that they're Christian, but they're proclaiming to be Christians, but they're living a life of just being a false. What am I trying to say?
They're going through the motions.
Yeah, going through the motions.
They're not making that decision of, yes, I accept Jesus. He is my Lord and Savior. Truly laying that down. And what does that mean? And so for those people that are feeling that way, I would just question them on what has worth to you? And from an eternal perspective, man, try to push people to see that, because you want to see people living in eternity. And I mean, that's the goal, is to share the gospel and Lord, open that door, let the Lord just work in their life. And I'm grateful that he did that for me. Yeah. And I think about, what you say, and then my role and people that listen to this know I'm a police officer. But for the most part, most people that are police or in law enforcement, they want to do good. And I know you can look at media and see all the negative that you want to, but you can see that about any profession. Like we talked about before we came on, it gets highlighted because we are supposed to be trusted. We're supposed to be good. And it's like, how do I impact them and make them see they're more, you have to do more than just be good, you know? And a lot of that's just how we live our life. To where, like when we're living our life, when we tell somebody, when they say, hey, what are you doing on Sunday? Oh, I'm going to go to church. That they're not like, what? You go to church? You know, that we're living our life, that our daily lives can be apparent that we're doing something different.
And I used to be, there was a time in my life where I felt like I was ashamed to, because you're trying to fit in, like you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know,
You're embarrassed to say I go to church.
Yeah, you're embarrassed to.
Like, man, I think back at myself when I was like that way. I'm like, why was I ever embarrassed to say I go to church?
Me too.
But
and man, I grew up in church, and I still
Same.
felt that way.
But you want to fit in and feel like you're one of the cool guys.
Yes.
And sometimes you're in our minds, or I guess it's that spiritual warfare. We're being made to think it's not cool to go to church. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to fight. I think that is spiritual warfare, being made to think, hey, it's not cool to say, yeah, I believe in Jesus. I believe Jesus is the Son of God and that he died and for my sins and raised on the third day. And why are we ashamed of that? Because it's not
deception,
cool,
man.
You know? But it really is cool. It's the greatest story there's ever been.
It is. And submitting your life to Christ as a man is so powerful.
Or we think, hey, being a Christian's not manly. But then you really look at Jesus, man, he was pretty manly.
He was.
You know, you look at these people in the Bible, like David, we talked about earlier. I think he was pretty manly. He made mistakes, but he admitted those mistakes too. Yeah. You know, what's more manly than a 12-year-old going out and fighting a giant?
Yeah.
Yeah, but all that, and it's like, why are we? I think that's part of what spiritual warfare is, and trying to take the man out of the home of being a leader is making us think that being a Christian is not the manly thing to do, and it's one of the hard. It's hard to do. It's hard. It's easy to do, but it's also hard to do. To make that decision to follow Christ is not a hard decision. And to realize, hey, this is the right thing and the manly thing to do.
That's so
I don't even know what else to say.
So good.
Kind of went off on a little
so good, man.
Sidetrack there. Before we get ready to close out, is there anything else you want to share with people, or that, hey, this is what people need to know about Clark, or this is what people need to know about Clark and Rebecca? You want to set Rebecca out on anything? You want to tell any Rebecca stories on here, and she can be like, I cannot believe you said that.
Oh man,
we did have one of my friends on early on, and you may not listen, but he was talking about his wife, and he goes, my then girlfriend, current wife, and
I heard that. I listened to that.
She got onto him. You said current wife. What do you mean by that? I was saying then girlfriend, current. You know. So
no, I don't have anything that bad, but no, all that I have to say about my wife is great. We're just in it together, and I'm super grateful. You know, to the guys that are looking to maybe propose or take that next step with a girl. You know, I just really see how they treat you, they respect you, but their walk with Christ, and that Rebecca has. You know, a lot of it's how they were raised in their own household, and she was raised, has a great relationship with her mother, and it's just so cool to see that firsthand, and being kind of invited to being a part of the family and joining that is so powerful, and that's what I want to try to do whenever we have a family one day, and that's all her dream. Rebecca, she wants to have a family. She wants to have kids. That's what makes her happy. And so I'm hopeful that the Lord opens up that door for us, you know, sometime in the future.
have fun trying. If Foster was here, no time.
We're good at that. Yeah, we're good at that. We're good at that, and that's a blessing too. Is we're in a really fun season of life, getting to do ministry together, just have a great time together, and the Lord has blessed us, in many, many, many ways, and just about me, I'm grateful for what the Lord's done in my life. We all have a story to tell, and some of the things that I talked about, are really near to my heart and have affected me in many ways, and a lot of reason why that I'm here. But I want to serve the kingdom. I want to be more like Jesus. I want to fight those hard battles that, and stand firm on what is true. And I love music. I am grateful that the Lord's called me into full-time ministry here at First Baptist. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't hard, because it is hard to some degree, but everything's hard in life, and you just have to work through it and work through the challenges and the kinks. And I want us to, as one body in one church, the goal every Sunday for me in this stage of my life is just to take what the Lord's given me and run with it and just glorify Him and lead our church and worship well and lead the people around me well and try to be a good example. And not just to people, in public spaces, but in my own household and in my home, and challenging my wife to get up together early in the morning and read the Bible with me and pushing her. And I just want to be as genuine and as real as I can be, and as manly as I can be, I guess. Right. There's some type of pressure from a worship, like you look at a typical worship guy, and like you said, you probably never guessed that I would be a hunter or like ride dirt bikes and stuff. But
I think you need to get up in your dirt bike riding outfit this Sunday.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Ride a dirt bike up onto the stage.
That would be awesome. Many people would probably be shocked, but I love all of those things. But most importantly, I love the kingdom of God, and but I also want to just challenge other guys around me to, to have those hard conversations and accept the challenge and go with it.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you did this, because people get to hear so much more about you. While music is a huge part of your life, and you're able to use the gift that you have through music to reach other people, there's so much more to you. That's just part of you. That's not everything that you are. You know? And it's just, I think it's great for you to take the time to do this. Yeah. And,
Well, thanks for letting me be on today. This is a new thing for me. And as a 25-year-old, I was thinking earlier, what would I have to, have to talk about?
You have a lot.
I'm probably on the very low end of the, the guys that you have had on this podcast.
Hey, you're not the youngest.
Really?
Yeah. We had Hunter Manis on right before he was graduating high school.
Oh, wow.
So you're not the youngest.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, it makes me feel a little better. But everybody has their own story, and that's a little bit of mine. So
we'll have you back. If we're still going in 5 years, we'll see what you're like at 30 years old and what's going on with you.
And one last thing, if there's anybody that's listening and you ever just want to come up and chat after service or ask me questions, like I want to be there for the church as well. Like, I just don't want to just sing and lead and then leave. I want to be interactive, and people can come up to me anytime. Anybody have a question, or if I can help in any way, just give me a shout. I'd be glad to talk to you.
Man, that's great. And, at a church this size, I think that's so great to hear from people that are on our staff that are up there and putting in, the work to reach people that, hey, I still want to talk to you and reach you. I'm there, and I'm willing to do that. I'm not running out the door right when the service is over because I'm trying to hurry up and get some lunch. I'm willing to talk to you. I think that's huge.
Yeah, man.
So I'll say a prayer and we'll be done. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting Clark take this time, to be here with us and to share about his life, what has led him to be one of the worship ministers here at First Baptist. You led him down the roads that he has been on, to put him right here and be able to reach people for you. Blessing him with his wife, Rebecca, really this hearing him talk about her, it makes me think how blessed him and I both are with our wives, me with Jamie and him with Rebecca, and how they both support us in everything that we do, whether it be, me working as a police officer, Clark working here at the church, and that that they're willing to make the sacrifices that they make to support us, the time we're both spending here right now, and hoping that this can reach some other people to lead them to Christ. Be with him as he continues his ministry, that he continues this, young marriage that he has with Rebecca, and bless them that they're able to reach, people. They're able to reach people for Christ, and this continue along with their ministry. In your name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Path, a podcast production of the men's ministry of First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee. For more information, or if you have questions, please visit our website at FBCHville.com. That's FBCHville.com.